and welcome to my book nook. For those that are new around here, the name's Rainey Barton. I teach music, I read books, all different types of genres, from fantasy to romance to thriller, all the different types. So if you're interested in that, please like and subscribe to my channel down below. Follow me on all social media platforms at Rainy Blue Reads. It really helps my channel grow. In today's video, we are doing one of two recommendation videos that are centered around my Get a Clue Readathon, which is going to be taking place all of November. And it is a readathon entirely based around the game Clue, where there's a mystery that you are trying to solve, a murder mystery you're trying to solve, and you can be on the different teams of the characters like Professor Plum, Mrs. Scarlet, Mr. Green, all of those people, and you're all trying to solve the mystery first and get the most point spread done for your team by reading books. And so if you're interested in that, I have an announcement video that I will link underneath here and hopefully put in a little blurby blurb up there once I figure out how to do those, and you can join your team and get ready because it is going to get crazy on November 1st on kickoff. Okay. So now that I've plugged that and gotten out of the way, what are we recommending in this video? In the actual readathon, when you submit a book for a prompt for a room, you can get additional points. You can get 100 extra points if you read a book by a BIPOC author. You can get 100 additional points if you read a book by an LGBTQ plus author. And you can get 100 extra points if you read a host favorite. And you can get 100 extra points if you read a mystery. And so I am going to be recommending my favorite BIPOC books, LGBTQ plus books, my host favorites, and mystery books. And that is going to be this one. And then I'm going to be coming up with a separate recommendations video in a week or so that's going to be fitting all the additional prompts that are on each team. So like books that are red, books that are blue, books that have this on the cover or this with many titles, whatever it is, so that you are fully prepared for all the additional prompt ones. Of course, I'm not going to tell you books that fit for like the actual prompts for the game because those are a secret until I release them. Okay, so if you're with me on this journey, I will timestamp everything accordingly so that you can find what you're looking for. I am going to recommend only books that I have personally read. There are probably books that I've heard nothing but great things about, but I'm not going to recommend them if I haven't read them, just because like any book that I'm sharing with you, I want to be able to really tell you like why I loved it and why you should read it. So there's that for you. Let's dive in. Okay, so we're going to start off with my favorite BIPOC author books. And so one of my favorites are one that I actually really enjoyed that I actually just finished is Jackal by Erin E. Adams. And this one is a hot take, okay? Because I actually gave this a 3.5 stars. And so you would be like, Rainey, that must not mean you liked it that much. No. I had a great time with this book. I thought it was very well crafted. I thought the author had a lot to say. The reason this was a 3.5 stars is it kind of went over my head because I can't really say why, but the title has a lot to do with it. A lot of it was lost on me, and honestly, it took until I watched the book troop discussion with Gabby and Bree from Locked Booktition, and the Jan Agaton Full Moon Book Club discussion with Bree from Locked Booktition, and the interview that Bree from Locked Booktition had with the author, for me to be like, wow, this is genius. More people should be talking about this. She had so many like metaphors for like systemic racism and like white power and white entitlement and like all this stuff. It was so good. And the fact that like this actually happens in towns where like little black girls go missing and like nobody cares because it's a black girl. Like seriously. So this book was very good. It had a lot to say. I will say that I know this is like a polarizing one because people hear this and go, oh, I don't think this is going to be a very good book. Well, it was. I highly recommend it. Keep it on your TBRs. The next one we have, I also read kind of recently, and that is Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. So I had never read anything by her before. She is the one that wrote the Poppy War series, and I hadn't read that yet. But this was about a best-selling sensation named Juniper Song, and she's not who she says she is. She's actually a white girl, but she's pretending to be Asian American, because what happens basically is in like the first chapter of this book, her and her Asian friend, who are both authors, the Asian friend is like doing well, like has like a contract, an agent, all that stuff, and like June doesn't have anything. Well, her friend accidentally dies in front of her, and her manuscript had just been finished and was sitting there. And so she claims it as her own, changed their name to Juniper Song so that people think she's Asian, and basically tries to get away with taking her work. And it's like a lot of commentary on the publishing world in general and how like this sort of stuff happens and like trying to basically like write outside of like your experience. And like this was just really good, and it got a little thrillery at the end, which I was not expecting. I had a fabulous time with this book. I read it literally in like one sitting. This was just so well crafted, and like Miss Kuang had a lot to say. Okay, so give it a read. And another author that I absolutely love, honestly, she's one of my favorite authors. I only haven't read 2 of her books yet, and she's Hispanic, and she's fabulous, and she's wonderful, is Jennifer Hillier. And so if I was going to recommend all of her books, like I would, but I'm going to recommend at least 2. The best one is Jar of Hearts, by far. And this one is about, I read this in one sitting, it's that good. It's about Angela Wong. She's a popular girl in school. She disappears without a trace. Nobody hears from her again. Not her best friend Georgina Shaw, and not Kaiser Brody, who is close with both girls. 14 years later, Angela's remains are discovered in the woods near Georgina's home, and Kaiser, who's a detective now, learns the truth that she was a victim of Calvin James, who was Georgina's boyfriend in high school. And so he was a serial killer. And so she ends up going to jail because she knew what had happened to Angela and ended up telling no one. And so she went to jail for that. And so now she's being released. New bodies are turning up. And she's like, wow, is Calvin back like to like do the serial killer business all over again? Or like what's going on? This was so good. I had the best time with it. I could not recommend a better book, honestly. Unless you're thinking of picking up Wonderland by her, which is like her carnival thriller. Also fabulous. Also great. So either one of these. Honestly, any Jennifer Hillier book, you cannot be led astray. Then another thriller that we have, because I do read a lot of thrillers, is Someone Had to Do It by Amber and Danielle Brown. It's a sister duo, and this is their debut book, and it was so good. And honestly, I'm kind of blanking on what happened. It's like halfway told through the perspective of like this rich socialite girl that like hates her life, all of this stuff. And then you have this other girl who is like a nobody, and she wants to be a fashion designer, which is like the socialite girl's dad's like main job. And so she tries to get a job as an intern, but like nothing is going and working for her. But then she overhears the main socialite girl saying something about possibly wanting to kill someone. And so then like after she hears that, their like webs get connected, and like the socialite girl is trying to get rid and like ruin the main girl, the little nobody girl's life, because she doesn't want her to like unfoil her plans, basically. And stuff just goes from there. That is honestly the worst explanation for a book that I've ever heard myself say. So I'm sorry, Amber and Danielle Brown, because that did you wrong. That really did you dirty. But it was so good, and Brittany really enjoyed it because I recommended it to Brittany in our switch off video, and she really liked it. So I think it's pretty good. Then the next book I have is just a very cute witchy rom-com, which I cannot find on my shelf right now, but it is The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangu Mandana. And I gave this a 4-star. I know that's also polarizing because everyone and their mother gives it a 5-star, but I've just learned I'm not really like a cozy any type of book girly, but I still really loved this. So I'm pretty sure this is about a little witchy girl that in this community, witches are not allowed to like be friends or be associated with each other because if too much magic gets in one place, it can be dangerous or something like that. And she ends up getting a job as a caretaker for 3 tiny witches who cannot control their powers at all and are going to get caught living together if they can't get it together. And so since she's good at controlling her powers, she's there to basically nanny them. And then it turns into a whole found family book, and there's a romance, and like, oh, it was just so good. It had all the cozy feelings, and I just loved it so much. And it was just like a warm hug, honestly, like from Olaf, from Frozen. So if you need a book like that in your life, this is the book to do that for you. Then I have a fun little middle grade for you if you're looking for something a little more easy and simple, and that would be Amari and the Night Brothers by B.B. Alston. I had so much fun with this book, and I cannot wait to read book number 2. I was honestly a little hesitant going into it because I'm not a middle grade girly, but it's like everyone said, like you can't go wrong with this book. And so this one follows our main girly pop. Oh my gosh, I've been watching Tori way too much. Tori from Between Books does that. But our main girl, and I cannot remember her name right now, I'm blanking, but her brother goes missing from this prestigious magical academy that he's going to, and she gets accepted into the academy, and basically the whole story goes into she's going to try and find her brother and find out like what actually happened to him, because she doesn't think he's dead. She thinks something happened to him. And so it's that, and a lot of chaos and magic ensues, and mystery and murder. Oh my! Maybe not murder, but it was really good. And I cannot wait for book 2. Honestly, go read it. It's so good. The next book we have is The Weight of Blood by Tiffany D. Jackson. So this is a Carrie retelling by Stephen King, only I've never read Carrie, and I probably don't want to because this retelling was just so good. And it is about our girl Maddie and how she is white passing. She is black, but she looks white. And one day, when it's raining out in the gym or out in PE on the field, her hair gets wet, it turns super curly, and they realize that she is half black, half white, and like start treating her terribly, terribly wrong. And so basically, she gets shunned. Nobody wants to see her. She's not technically allowed to go to the white person prom anymore. Like they have a segregated prom, which apparently that happens in the real world, and I cannot understand that. But anyway, The head quarterback, of course, asks her to go with him, and he's black though, and then, you know, all of this stuff starts happening, and she starts to go crazy, and like the whole Carrie, you know, thing happens at prom. Anyway, I loved this, and I loved the mixed media aspect of it because it has a podcast and like TV interviews, and like it was a really, really good audiobook. So if you're going to read this book, I highly recommend doing the audio because it was fan-freaking-tastic. It was so good. And we have another horror one, and this is a short little novella, and this is Ring Shout by P. Jelly Clark. And so this one is a KKK, not retelling, but like horror. I mean, that's already a horror, but like, I don't know how to explain it, like horror fantasy maybe? It's like about if the Ku Klux Klan were like killer, not robots, but like killer monster men, and like these two women have to decide that they're going to take down the whole clan by themselves. And it's in this little southern rural community where like the KKK was very prominent. This book is freaking hilarious. The audiobook is so good. The characters, the voices, everything. And there's actually singing in it, like gospel singing in this audiobook. It was so good. Like when I tell you I have not enjoyed an audiobook as much as I enjoyed this one, I'm not even joking. So like if you can handle horror and that sort of thing, and you also want a good laugh, then like this is the perfect book to do both of those things at once. Hello friends, it is a completely different day. I'm in a different outfit, but you know what? My camera died in the middle of filming, and then I just didn't have time to film the rest of it, and then a week went by, and here we are. But I'm finishing this video right now. And if I get it right, then I left off on another great BIPOC book that I absolutely love, is Sharks in the Time of Saviors by Kawhi Strong Washburn, and that is about this guy, this boy, and I cannot remember his name. But they live on a Hawaiian island with his family, and they're very poor, and he's on a boat, I believe, with his dad one day and a couple of his siblings, and all of a sudden he falls off the boat into like shark-infested waters, and they're for sure that he's a goner, but instead the sharks deliver him back safely in their jaws, like to the family, and then after that he has like magical abilities, and like their family is never the same, and so it's like a coming of age / like family, like environment, like community, found family type situation. And this book is freaking hilarious. You need to listen to the audiobook for it for sure. Sorry, also the air kicked on. I'm about to turn it off. But you need the audiobook for this. It's very good. It's told from a couple of different perspectives of the different family members, and it is just hilarious, and I just absolutely loved this book. It was just such a great time. So if you're looking for a fun, funny book to read, this might be the one for you. Then another book I have, which is actually a translated work, is Confessions by Kanae Minato. And I read this for book club with Books and Lala last year. And it has 5 perspectives, but it's basically the story of this professor telling her kids, like in a lecture, that she knows which one of them killed her daughter or like poisoned her daughter or whatever they did, and that she's going to out them right then and there in there. And so like the first story is told from the professor's perspective. Another perspective is from one of the cousins, I think, of the murderer. Another perspective is from, like, a classmate in there. And, like, 5 different perspectives of, like, what happened and how the events came to be. And it is so good. I have never read a book where at the end of every single, like, chapter, I'm just like, oh my gosh, that was wild. And this was just so good. I had the best time reading this. It is a really great mystery, and it is just so much fun. Then we have a romance, because you know I love a good romance, and so that's why I've got to recommend 7 Days in June by Tia Williams on this list. I absolutely loved that book. I thought it had great representation of chronic pain, because the main character struggles with chronic pain, and especially having migraines, especially when it gets rainy, like it's extra bad for her. I also loved the mother-daughter relationship in this book. It was just very, very sweet. It is a book that technically is insta-lovey, because like the couple was together for like literally like a week, and then that was it in high school, and now like it's like 10 years later, they both are romance writers, or they both write books, and they get reunited again. But it didn't feel insta-lovey to me just because of like their relationship and the way that it was written. Like the characters are just very, very well fleshed out and just very knowledgeable, and I just love this book. Honestly, it's a top tier romance for me. And then I have another one that is a horror recommendation, and this is When the Reckoning Comes by LaTanya McQueen. And so this one is pretty good. I enjoyed it a lot. It's about this girl, and she has 2 friends, and I believe one of the friends is white, and the other 2, they're both black. And the main character, she ends up getting invited back to her friend's wedding, but her friend decides to have a wedding on like the old slave plantation in their hometown, where like, you know, there's spirits and ghosts and all this stuff, and like of course some evil shit ensues from there. And then one of the bride or groom people end up missing, and it's the whole thing, and like they did it on an ancient plantation, so like stuff's gonna go wrong. I like this book. The horror was definitely horroring in this book. There is some creepy stuff that goes down within these pages, and it's short. I think it's only like 230 pages, and it was really good for a debut book, so I had a good time with it, so I would definitely recommend it. And then the last one, sorry if you hear the ice cream truck. The last one I have is actually a series of short stories, and it's called The Secret Lives of Church Ladies by Disha Philyaw. And so I read this a while ago. It is literally just a bunch of short stories about these older, like, Black church women, as it said, and just telling like different stories throughout their lives. And like, it was so good. Peach Cobbler is the best one in the whole short stories series, but I'm not really a short stories girly, but I really enjoyed this one. It just had so much sass, southern charm. It was just a great time. I loved all of the characters. I loved all of the stories. They were super quick and easy to read. So if you want a short story collection, I highly recommend this one. Okay, now we're finally moving on to the LGBTQ plus section. This is just authors that I have, and I only have a couple because I don't know as many. Also, it's like weird to like look for books by authors like by their gender, like typing in this author, what's this author's gender, what's this author's gender, and so I don't wish to do that to anybody. So I only put people on here that I was 100% sure. So that's what we're gonna go with. And so one is This Is Where We Talk Things Out by Caitlin Marceau. And I actually just read this one. And this is one that gives very much Bates Motel energy. But it's basically about this girl who has a very, very toxic relationship with her mother. They don't have a relationship anymore because the girl has cut off the mom for some reason. And the mom's trying to get back in her life. And they go to stay in a cabin together over a weekend. And some crazy stuff happens. It's like 90 pages long. It's a short little horror novella. It's not too gruesome, not too bad. I really, really, really enjoyed it, and I was not expecting where that ending was going to go, honestly. Then, of course, we've got to put my main man on here. Things have gotten worse since we last spoke with Eric LaRocca, because I had been wanting to read that book for so long, and that book is crazy, the stuff that happens in it. It's literally about these two little women that are on this chat website trying to sell a vintage apple peeler, and their relationship just develops from there, and it starts to get a little unhinged, in fact a lot of unhinged, and really, really creepy. Honestly, by the end of this book, I went to think that we went from here to here is just total different levels of unhinged. So if you're not ready for like kind of disgusting horror, it's not like completely, like, it's not, I would not categorize this as extreme horror. Maybe some people would, but I wouldn't say this is extreme. I would just say that this is gross horror, honestly, more than anything. But it was so good, so well crafted. I could not stop reading it. Mr. LaRocca knows how to do no wrong, in my opinion. Then we have one of my favorite books from last year. It was actually the only romance that made it into my top 10 of last year, and that is Delilah Green Doesn't Care by Ashley Herring Blake. I had the best time with this book. I love this entire series. I need to get to the third one, Iris Kelly Doesn't Date, because it just came out. But this one is about our girl Delilah, and she is a photographer, and she has a pretty strange relationship with her stepmom and stepsister, and her dad has passed away. And she decides to, she lives somewhere else, and she's asked to come back to photograph her sister-in-law's wedding. And so, of course, she meets someone there, and then it's just their relationship sparking from there. So it's like also about like family relationships, but also about their relationship, and it was just so good. The relationship was so good, the steamy scenes were so steamy, and I just loved the characters in this book, and I honestly recommend the entire series, but I'm going to recommend the first one for sure. That is my personal favorite. So good. The next one that I have for you, I very thoroughly enjoyed and read super quick, and that is You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty by Akwaeke Emezi, and I had never read anything by them before, and it was so good. So it's about Faye, and audiobook, 100% recommend. For the accents alone and everything, read that. But Faye, basically, it's been 5 years since she's dated anyone since the accident that killed the love of her life. And so now, like, she's, you know, living her new life, getting by with her best friend Joy or whatever. And then she has a steamy encounter at a rooftop party, and it turns into basically going with him to like his summer home in like this island. It's a luxury trip to a tropical island with meals in the glamorous home of a celebrity chef and a major curator who wants to launch her art career. And of course, she's even started dating the perfect guy, but then things get really, really complicated because she wants the person that is off limits, his father. So it's a relationship, an age gap relationship between her and the dad. Well, some people are not going to go for it for that very exact reason. However, it did what it needed to do for me. I really liked it. The way that they write stories is just so good. Like, the writing in this book is just exceptional. And honestly, I just had a great time with this book. I know it's not for everyone. So like, if you're not about age gaps and forbidden dad romances, then don't do it. But I thought it was beautifully well crafted, and I had a great time with it. Then we have the Every Heart a Doorway or Wayward Children series by Shauna McGuire. I've only read the first one and I really, really liked it, but basically it is a series about a bunch of kids that have like special abilities or powers, and they come from these different worlds and they're all going to like this one magical school. And so like each book shifts between like the story being at the school and then the story following one specific kid through like their world, and then the school and then their world. And so I read the first one, and that was like at all of the kids at the school, and you get to know the main characters and stuff. But it was so fun and so wholesome and just like very interesting, because these books are only like 100 and something pages long. Like they're very short reads, so I highly recommend it, and I need to read more of the series. But anything Shauna McGuire writes is basically fair game. Then another one that we had that I gave 3.5 stars, but I still really enjoyed it, is I Kissed Shara Wheeler by Casey McQuiston. This is the only Casey McQuiston book that I've read, and I know that they have Red, White, and Royal Blue. I need to get on it. But I liked this one. This is about a girl named Shara Wheeler who's very popular, and apparently she kissed 3 different people in the school, and one day she goes missing, and those 3 people band together to find out what actually happened to her. And like, it's very, very cute. I love the writing. I love the mixed media-ness of it all. It would have like letters and emails and phone calls and stuff like interspersed throughout, and I thought the audiobook did a really good job with that. Can you tell that I'm all about audiobooks as of late? But I really liked it. It was super cute. The ending was okay. I think that's why I knocked it down a star or 2, because I just didn't really care for the ending and like what the whole purpose of what the book was about. But if you need a quick, easy read, that's one for you. And then my last one I have, and this could be 100% wrong, but I'm pretty sure I heard someone say that she is LGBTQ+. And if she's not, the book is sapphic. And that is Nay Never Learn by Lane Fargo. We love a good girl, a good for her energy moment, okay? So she is a professor, Miss Scarlett, I'm pretty sure. She's a professor, and she basically unalives men that have done bad things to women at this college. And then one day, kill goes a little too far, and she has to clean up the mess before everyone finds out what she is doing. This book has good, bad bitch energy, and it is so good. It's one of my favorite thrillers ever. I loved it. I had the best time with it. It had a huge plot twist in the middle that I was not expecting. I could not stop reading this book. I loved this book so freaking much. Then I was going to recommend mystery books, because that is also ones that you can get 100 points extra for. However, Miss Leandra from the Professor Plum's team came out with an amazing mystery video where she recommends over 30. So I'm going to recommend 2 of my favorite murder mystery thrillers, and that is it. And that's all I'm going to recommend. And so one that I would recommend is The Perfect Ruin by Shanora Williams, which is also a BIPOC author. And that one is kind of like The Last Mrs. Parrish, but like more rich, domestic, housewifey, gossipy time. So I love for that sort of thing. But I can't even remember. I'm pretty sure it's about this girl that something happened to her. She was wronged when she was younger, and now she's older, and she's basically come back to avenge the wrongs that have been done to her and like infiltrate this woman's life. It's kind of like, she, you know, where like you want the life that someone else has, and so you steal their life from them. It's like that. And I read this all in one sitting. It was that good, and I had the best time with it, and I wish I had a copy of it because it was just so good. It's a great little popcorn thriller, easy, beachy summer read, super quick and easy. And then another one that I actually really enjoyed that I think would be good for this is You're Invited by Amanda Jayatisa. So this one is centered around this girl. They're all centered around weddings always. It's like she was basically banned or like shunned from like her found family in Sri Lanka, I'm pretty sure. And so she leaves there, and you don't know why until later on what had happened. But she ends up going back for her best friend's wedding, and they're not best friends either anymore. And you find out why for that as well. But then, of course, the bride or the groom goes missing at the wedding, and signs all point towards her. And so she has to prove that she's not the one that murdered anybody and all of that. And it has interviews between the different family members, which is hilarious. It's all a big Sri Lankan family. I think it was really, really well done. I had a great time with this book. It was fast. It flew. It wasn't anything like substantial. Like, it's not like the next best, latest, and greatest thriller. Like, it's not going to be like a, oh, wow, like, that was impressive type thing. But it did what it needed to do. And then let's also talk about my 4 host favorites for the Readathon. If you don't read any other books, you should read these. And the first one is Other People's Clothes by Miss Calla Hankel. If you have been around for a minute, then you know that I stan this book. This was my #1 book of last year. That I love this book with my whole entire chest. It's normally sitting right out here. I don't know why I didn't have it on the shelf. But this girly pop is the vibe. Okay? It's the moment. So, this one, now I will say, this one is not going to be for everyone. It's really not, because it's like a literary type of fiction. Okay? It's for those refined girlies. Okay? It's for the refined. This is about our main girl, Haley, who is trying to run away from the trauma of the recent murder of her best friend Zoe. And so she ends up studying abroad in Berlin with this other exchange student who she's never met before. And they both are obsessed with like Andy Warhol and Britney Spears, and they want nothing more than to be an art star. So then they stumble on a posting for this like sublet that's by a well-known thriller writer named Beatrice Bex. And they start making a club in that hotel, and they feel like they're being watched. So then Beatrice decides to use their lives as inspiration for her next novel, and so they start having a weekly nightclub, and then things start to spiral out of control, and then they wonder whose story they're living, how it's going to end. There's a murder mystery. There's so much madness and mayhem in this book. I just love this book. Honestly, I need to read this book again. I had so much time with this book. It just is so good. It's so unique. It's so out there. And the last sentence had me shooketh. Had me shook it. I wish there was a sequel to this. That's how much I loved it. I have my probably #1 book of this year that I absolutely loved, and that is The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Miss Carissa Broadbent. I love Miss Carissa. We stan this. It is a vampire fantasy romance, okay? This one is all about this is about Aurea, who is a human, and she's the adopted human daughter of the Nightborn vampire king, and she lives in a home filled with vampires, and so like it's not safe for her. So her only chance to become something more than prey is to enter the Kajari, which is basically like a Hunger Games type tournament held by the goddess of death. But in order to win, she has to join forces with our rival / beloved romance, Rain, and it is their relationship, and it is so good. Oh my gosh, she just writes so well. I had so much time with this. I love the Hunger Games aspect of this all. I love vampires. I just love everything about this, and they're so cute, and it is a slow burn though, so be prepared. It's very slow. It's burns of the slowest variety, but it is so good. This is for the girlies that think they could be into a historical, like fantasy romance-esque, dark romance, and that is Sea of Ruin by Pam Godwin. Also a favorite for this year. I had such a good time with this book, and thank you so much to Jean for gifting me a copy of this beautiful bad boy. So this is about Bennett Sharp, and she's wanted for piracy, and she fears nobody except for Priest Farrell, which is like, I'm not going to tell you who that is. Priest Farrell's another bounty hunter, or not bounty hunter, another pirate, and he will not stop coming for her. Not even when she's captured by the ice-cold pirate hunter, Lord Ashley Cutler. So she has to escape Ashley's prison and Priest's deceit, but can she walk away from their twisted desires? And then some crazy stuff happens, and it's the romance. Oh my gosh, I love this book. It is a little historical, but not that bad. It was so good. It was steamy as all heck. I was not expecting the twist that happened in this book. It is so good. I love it so much. I love this book. Honestly, it is just such a fun time. It's pirates. It's romance. It's the 7 seas. What more could you want? And then the last one that I put on here is one of my favorite romances. Like, I wouldn't consider it dark, but it's not just regular. It's taboo, I guess. And it's an age gap romance called Praise by Sarah Kate. I read this and I love this. Emerson, I stand for him. He is the moment, okay? He is just everything. He is like the daddy of dreams, okay? So this is about Emerson, and I can't remember the name of the girl right now, but basically his son was dating someone, and his son is a douche, and is dating this girl, and this girl dumps the guy because he's terrible, but they have to get their last check or their last rent payment from his dad. So she ends up going to get it because the son has like a bad relationship with the dad, doesn't want to go get it. And she goes there and he accidentally mistakes her for his secretary, tells her to kneel in front of him. And then he realizes very quickly, oh shit, this is actually my son's ex-girlfriend. And then she decides she wants to be his secretary. And so it's their relationship. And it is so steamy. So good. So good, so good, so good. How far will she go to get his approval? I don't know, but you're going to have to find out by reading this book. Those are all of the recommendations I have for you for bonus prompts, like for like the main rooms for Get a Clue Readathon, which if you're still not tuned into Get a Clue Readathon, it's the readathon that I'm hosting in November from the 1st to the 30th. It's not too late to join. You can go join with the link in the video underneath here. Go join us, have a great time, join a team. I'm pro all of the teams, so just join the one that fits your fancy, and we're going to get started with some crazy prompt dropping on November 1st. And with that, I will see you guys in a video super soon. Bye!